Okay, so let's start the second part about your discovery of divine truth teachings. And can you share a bit with our audience, how did you discover divine truth teachings first time?
Well, I went to a course which I was hoping would save my marriage. So I dragged my ex-wife, to this course, and in the relationship section I talked to the man who was running the course, and I said, I'm hoping this will save our marriage. And he then asked what was happening in our marriage and gave me some personal time. And he said to me after talking with me that he felt that I was looking towards my wife for what I didn't get from my mother, and I could see that there was the truth was in that, and that my wife's anger towards me was my law of attraction.
Yes.
And that was something which was an invitation to release how I felt in front of a woman, and actually I couldn't attract love from a woman until I dealt with my feelings of insecurity with women. And when I heard that, I knew it was right. I knew that I'd been looking towards Linda to rescue me, as I had done my whole life, to make me feel okay in front of a woman. So once I heard that, I thought, this will save our marriage. And he said also that she is likely to have a similar thing, looking towards me for some security and some sort of sense of a father figure, you know, which she may have missed out on in her life. And when I communicated this to my wife, I thought, this is brilliant. We'll both deal with our insecurities, our baggage, our childhood injuries, and we'll have a wonderful relationship again. So I was very excited. However, she was not as keen as me to do that sort of work, and that became apparent after a couple of weeks. So I left the relationship after a couple of weeks. But that was the start of me finding out about the truth about my injuries and insecurities and all that shyness and all that sort of stuff, but also what I could do about them, that emotions, if you experience them, release from you and you become free of them. And that was a new concept to me. So that, yeah.
And so how was it related to the discovery of divine truth?
So that man told me that he didn't mention anything about Jesus. He didn't mention anything about the divine truth. He just said, you've come to this course to save your marriage. He said, this is what I feel is happening in your marriage. You need to not look towards your wife as a mother figure. You need to own your own insecurities with women and deal with that. You need to grieve, actually, the lack of love you have felt in your life from a woman. You need to grieve that, let that go, and then you'll attract love.
Okay.
Yeah,
but I still don't understand where divine truth teaching. So
to me, that is the bulk of the teaching about my life attracting. And then I asked him later. I said, "Is this?" A friend had come to me 6 months prior, and said that he's leaving town and going up to Kingaroy. And I said, what for? And he said, oh, well, my wife is into this guy called, he reckons he's Jesus and that. And I sort of listened to it and I thought, sounds a bit weird, but I don't know, I didn't really judge it. And I asked, is this the same guy that's saying this stuff? For some reason I asked. And he said, yes, it is, the bloke that saying he's Jesus.
Okay, but who was the guy telling you about your marriage? Was it someone involved in divine truth teaching? Yes.
So that was Peter Highbloom, who was doing the Alpha Dynamic course, which I attended, and he shared that divine truth teaching with me about my life.
Okay, so you were attracted. You were attracted to a place where someone was involved in divine truth and was sharing you information.
Yes.
that was coming from divine truth or in harmony with divine truth teaching or something like that.
Yes.
And that day you didn't hear that it was divine truth. It's only later that you make the connections that you said.
Yes.
So you attracted divine truth in your life. You were not looking for divine truth. So you attracted by, can we say by coincidence? I don't know.
I was looking for how to deal with this issue in my life, and I got the answer. Yes. What I thought was, how can I save my marriage? Yes. And he said, you can save your marriage by dealing with your mother issues and grieving that.
Yes.
And I thought, that's spot on.
So you get this information, you are very excited.
Yes.
Obviously your wife is not so excited,
because
you decide that it's not going to work if only one partner is working through the things. It will never resolve.
Well, she continued to be angry with me, and I learned also then, I talked to him about the anger, and he said, it's not loving to put up with anger, actually. Yes. And so I drew the line in the sand then, not to absorb any more anger.
So in one interaction, it changed your idea about loving relationship. It's just like your heart was so open to receive these new ideas, and you felt, it makes sense to me.
Yeah.
It's the answer, basically.
It's the answer, and it was opportunity for me to take responsibility of my life. I was looking towards my wife a lot, thinking, how can I make her happy, all this, but this came back to me.
Yes.
This is something I can do. If I grieve the lack of love, I can then attract love.
Yes.
To me, it was just spot on, and it was my job, it was my responsibility. So, it was perfect.
So you heard that this teaching are coming from a guy who claimed to be Jesus.
Yes.
And what did you do next? Did you start to listen, or did you start to inquire more about these things, or you just work on your relationship?
I didn't even know about Jesus or about where it was from or where the information was.
Yes.
I had enough information.
Okay, and so what did you do with that after?
I just started feeling my emotion. I just started praying to God and to sort of starting to own this truth about my insecurity with women. So that was my focus. I didn't care whether it came from Jesus or who it came from. I just thought, great, I know the truth. Yes. And if this bloke says he's Jesus or not, it doesn't matter to me. It's,
Okay.
But I thought he probably is. Okay. That sort of insight, he probably is Jesus,
Just because this information feels real to you.
That's right. I've been searching for it for 14 years of my marriage, for that information, and before that I've been searching for a woman's love all my life. But to get that was gold, that information. And I thought, no, that sounds like it would come from Jesus to me.
So in the beginning, it feels right, but you have not experienced with it yet, and then you start to feel your feelings.
Yeah.
And you start to have your own experience about it.
Yes.
And feel that it works, if it's real or not.
Yes. And
you start to grow some faith that it might be the truth indeed.
Yes.
Yes. Is that how it went, or how did it happen?
I knew that it was the truth, but that's exactly what happened. It probably took me a month before I really had a good cry about how sad I was. And after that, I opened up and was able to cry more easily about just the sadnesses in my life. And after each one of those, I felt quite lighter, and I thought, this is working. This is working. And also I felt God more at those times. And so
you see it's working. And you start to have really some growing faith in this. And then how did you come closer to, because obviously there are a lot of teachings about all kind of topics. How did you come closer? Because today you have been to listening to A.G. Miller or Jesus.
Yes.
How did you come closer after that? What was your adventure?
I'm a little bit forgetful. Just
Yes.
I knew one person. I think the people who attended this seminar, other people gathered. Some of them gathered later on, which I heard about, or this Peter Heibloom organised or something, and we gathered, and those were people who believed in the divine truth. So I connected with them, and from that I met a few more people and a few more, and then I found out how to get some DVDs, and which happened as the months sort of went by. But it wasn't my big focus. My big focus, I just knew that I have to do the emotional work. When I did, watch some DVDs, and then when Yeshua came down and did a seminar at COFS, I attended that and met him in person and asked him some questions and stuff like that. That sort of just helped develop my faith more and helped develop me to know that he's Jesus.
So how, for a Christian, Catholic, how could you be so open to one person claiming he's Jesus of the Bible, while obviously he's not as the Bible portrays him, and most Christian would be kind of quite take this claim as probably a lie or something.
But see, I feel he is very much as the Bible portrays him.
Okay.
So because of my time in the priesthood and studying theology and the scriptures and the Bible and all that, I sort of got a bit of an insight that this Jesus bloke just loves God, loves talking about God, that loves people, and this information I was getting was the same. This bloke loves God. He invites people into personal responsibility. And then when I met him and that, I thought, this seems like the bloke to me.
Okay, so you were not even like a bit doubting or a bit untrustworthy in the beginning. You were just open. Well, maybe he is, and it felt like he is actually to me.
That's the way it felt like to me. It just felt obvious. Felt obvious because just it felt obvious to me.
Well, he's not coming on earth the way the Bible describes he would come back on earth.
But a lot of the Bible also is, and this is what I learned, is that it's open to interpretation. A lot of the Bible was written for an audience in mind and written to that audience to teach some things and that. And of course there's some different things about Jesus, which just seems like it happened like that, but there was a lot of manipulation of the different words in the Bible and stuff, so I've never been too fixed on it. Jesus has to come back this way or that way, and I've sort of never even thought that Jesus probably would come back, but now that he's back, I think there he is.
So what you mean, because I'm not grown up in a religious background, so I don't know very much, but do you mean that Catholic have a broad interpretation of the Bible, and some Catholic feels like you that what's written in the Bible, it's not exactly what needs to happen, but it might be just an image of
So the Bible, Catholics do view that way as the Bible in general, but also because I went and studied it at uni, you sort of learn different interpretations and different things historically which happened at that time, and so the author, whether it's Matthew, Mark, Luke or John, had this intention of writing this, or you sort of learn about all different possibilities. So there's a lot of openness about the Bible, but the thing that comes through the Bible to me is that Jesus loves God. He spent his whole night in prayer. He'd go away and just spend time with God. And him and John the Baptist seemed like they were mates who were connected with his faith in God, and they both wanted to tell people about God. And he loves people, very kind, not judging, other people ready to rubbish, but he's just beautiful, kind person. And I just think the same. But amazing insight into God and into being like God, if that makes sense, being sort of very loving and kind like God is, like even the things like turn the other cheek and, which... The Bible to me is a unique book in the whole world. There's no book like it which talks about somebody who's just so, I don't know what the right words are, but beyond anybody else in a loving way. It's just magnificent. It's really beautiful, that.
You're talking about the New Testament.
Yes,
right?
yes, I'm talking about the New Testament, like the scriptures, the Gospels and that, that's all that about the life of Jesus is just extraordinary to me.
For Catholics, the Old Testament is also something they read?
Yes, a bit, but not mostly the New Testament.
Mostly the New Testament.
Yeah.
This is something particular to Catholics? Like the New Testament is the most important thing they study? Like Anglican would be different, or other Christian would be different?
My thoughts are most Christians focus on the New Testament, focus on the life of Jesus. They include parts of the Old Testament. Like if you go to a service or a church, they'll have a reading of the Old Testament, a reading of the Psalms, and a reading of the New Testament, which will be Paul's letter to some of the churches, and then a reading of the Gospel. And the Gospel's the main sort of reading, which would be one of Jesus's lessons, or something that Jesus did or taught.
So how would you explain that most Christians, they kind of get very angry at A.G. Miller when he claims he's Jesus?
Yeah.
And why is it so?
I think that they perhaps, and this is just my opinion, and I'm just talking out loud, but I think
I'm curious.
that perhaps they feel quite threatened somehow, and that they have a handle, or when I say a handle, their faith is a bit controlled. We go and be good Christians and we're good people, and they sort of have it's working for them. But to have someone come along and say that he's Jesus, it might challenge their life, whereas they feel like they've got the right life, I'm thinking.
And they are happy, they are already happy in their life, they are not searching for solutions?
I think so.
They found it?
Yes, I think so. Yeah, I think that.
So while you were someone on your journey looking for solutions, like you did study the Bible, you studied theology, but obviously it was not the answer you were looking for. It did not work in your own relationship, so you were still looking for something else.
Yes.
And that might be a difference.
Yes.
With a lot of people who are just happy with what they have, and they don't want too much change.
Yes, that's right.
So that's one possibility, yeah.
Yes, and also people who take the Bible fundamentally, like word for word, then they can sort of control it and have it very like we know exactly what we've got to do, whereas to have a sort of more open view on it does challenge that sort of control, I think, as well. So I think that it serves some people's purpose, having that, Yeah.
If you had to summarize, to say in a few words what divine truth teaching are about, and how is it different to other spiritual or new age teachings?
I'd say it's the way to connect to God. It's a practical way that you can connect to God as a real person, as a real entity, and share love with God, share a relationship, a connection. And the way is to be yourself before God. You can't sort of fake yourself before God like we do with people, have a facade and that, because God wants to connect with the real person. So for me, it's about being the real me before the real God, and then we can have a connection, and that really equals happiness. And in getting there, I sort of have to let go of some of the falsehoods in my life, and insecurities and injuries and that sort of stuff, you know. When I say let go of that, grieve some of it, come to realise also my own manipulation and, you know, damage which I do to other people because I want their approval or whatever, you know, instead of just being me, you know.
So it's what you say. It's mainly about the way. It's the only way to get this relationship with God, to be happy. But what about people who do not believe in God and so do not have a relationship with God? They cannot be happy, or they are not. Is that not a teaching for them as well?
I feel people can be very happy not connecting with God.
Okay.
But to me, this is it's a little bit like once I get to know you, I enjoy your relationship. Once I get to know God and enjoy God's relationship, that's a pretty good relationship. So to me, it's like if people wouldn't really reject God if they felt God and sort of started that friendship, if you know what I mean. They'd sort of think, that feels really nice, that friendship. Like, you know, someone that loves us and thinks we're wonderful, you know. But people, but I do feel like happiness comes from being our real self, real happiness, which means letting go of the things which aren't ourselves, and some of that false ideas about like men are better than women. That's not going to bring me happiness in the long run, because it'll bring me a lot of unhappiness from women, and also that won't be true happiness, you know. And there's a lot of things like that which I've learned, and which many of us we need to let go of and sort of see the real truth of ourselves and people, you know.
And having this relationship with God helps you to discover more about yourself and your false belief. When you have no God in your life, you have to discover everything by yourself.
Yes.
So it feels like a bit more difficult to get really happy and
and to have that sort of companionship along the way is wonderful. You know, to have someone that really is in as you know, is in your corner, wants to bat for you, you know, wants to love you through it. It's beautiful.
It's like, indeed, when you don't have this relationship, when you don't know God, you cannot know what you are missing.
That's right.
So you cannot even desire it because you have no idea there is some joy in that.
That's right. Yeah.
Would make sense. So divine truth teaching is not like just for the person who wants God, but for the person who wants to discover if there is a God and if there is a possibility to have a relationship with God as well. So atheist, and it's not just like something for religious people.
No,
is it?
No.
Would you say divine truth is a spiritual path? Is it a religion? Is it a cult? How would you describe the divine truth teaching?
I just describe it as information.
Okay.
It's a teaching, it's information on how to connect with God and connect with yourself and to get happy, I think.
It's not a religion to you?
No.
How is it different to a religion?
Religions have sort of a set of guidelines, I think, and a sort of a pattern which you follow, and sort of, I forget the right word, but dogma. Dogma means teachings, but in a more sort of religious sense. I don't know if I'm explaining this right, but a religion is like a group who usually have the same beliefs and the way they practice things.
Okay. You don't see that in divine truth?
Well, the way I'm explaining it is similar.
Yeah.
But perhaps the religion is a bit more controlled Like
Okay.
you need to fit into those guidelines too. Whereas I don't feel like divine truth is like that. It's quite more a journey of your own discovery of yourself and connecting with God independently and not sort of in a community or a group.
Have you ever been controlled by
No.
Jesus, Mary, or someone related?
No.
No.
Mm.
So, okay. Yeah.
No, the opposite really, you know, in the way that, you know, very very uncontrolling, you know, very not wanting anything or for me to follow anything and not having any judgment if I don't follow the teachings or anything like that, you know.
Because you have been involved in a religion,
Yes.
it's really interesting to have your opinion, because
Yeah.
you are someone who experiments
Yes.
both.
Yes.
So it's very enlightening to hear your opinion. That's why I ask you a bit more
Yes.
question about that.
Yes.
You know, the media have portrayed all the Jesus and Divine Truth movement like a cult, thing
Yes.
like that, and lots of people believe who do not know about it, believe it might be a cult, and
Yes.
lots of people are afraid.
Yeah.
What is your point on, or what is your opinion about it, and how do you feel about it?
Well, a cult is a pretty scary thing where somebody is sort of enters something with excitement and fervour and, you know, and they have some sort of their own, the cult has some sort of ownership or control of that person, and that person usually, this is my understanding of a cult,
Yes.
you know, is sort of there with the group and needs to follow in that sort of structure of the group or that
Yes.
control in order to continue to be part of that group. I don't see this as being part of a group at all, really. I just see it as me trying to connect with God. You know, if I've got friends who are doing the same thing, I'll go and talk with them. We might share you know. But I see it as my own journey to God and myself, really. And Yeshua and Mary, AJ and Mary, you know, that I see them as encouraging that. And if people have friends in amongst that or feel some companionship and enjoyment and some, I mean, that's all good, but it's quite different than and this way it's sort of like me trying to connect with God and myself on my journey, whereas a religion, often you go through the religion to connect with God, and you know, whereas this is not going through the religion as well, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yes. Well, there is often a central figure in a cult, like a guru or something, and it often goes through him.
Oh, yes, yep.
And so here it's completely different because it's between you and God.
Yes.
And that's what you experiment. You have been to seminars. There's obviously some public seminars there have been.
Yes.
Have you ever been asked to pay?
No.
Have you been felt forced to give something?
No.
No,
Never.
And well, how do you know there's not a hidden intention that A.J. Miller would hide, and that maybe wants some point to control people?
Because I've got pretty total confidence when something is of God. You know, it's very good and pure, and you know, when you know something in your heart, you know, if you start jogging every day, you get fit, and you just when you do things, you just know it. You know, it's obvious, and to me, this is very obvious. You know, these people are of God, and God's loving, and they're loving, and you know, and
I don't feel it so clear and obvious, because I feel we have such a quality or quality now. It's so easy for human in our condition to go into self-deception, and it's just like when I read the Old Testament, I don't recognize God, but I would talk to some religious people and they would feel it's all the truth, and they say it's all the truth, but I would not recognize a loving God. And so I hear you and I understand you have some feeling, but for the average person, it's not so obvious to know that it is of God, because we might have been in other movement or philosophy and thinking that it is of God, and then we discover it's not of God.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. I hear what you're saying, but it's just what I feel. I feel you can tell when someone's loving and sincere, and you can feel when someone's not. You know, and I've had people, you know, manipulate me in my life, and I have been sucked into mainly financial scams and stuff like that, you know. But no, this has been, my faith has been a wonderful thing in my life, and to come across the truth now, I'm very excited, and to know that Jesus is here, you know, I just think it's wonderful.
Are you sharing? Are you talking to others about Jesus being here?
Mostly
about
not.
Truth?
Mostly
Why?
not. Because not many people want to hear. I haven't come across people who want to hear about it yet. I did do some talks. I did a series of perhaps about 8 different talks at different towns, but nobody came.
Okay.
So,
and in your normal life, in conversation, like you go for shopping or whatever, and you meet people. And
sometimes,
yeah,
sometimes. But if I do talk to people, often they're Christian people, and often they ask, "What has brought you to Kingaroy?" And I said, "Oh well, have you heard about the man that says he's Jesus? His name's AJ Miller." And they say, "Oh, yes or no." And I say, "Well, he's a friend of mine, and I believe he is Jesus, and so that's why I'm here. I'm attracted to that." And so sometimes the conversation goes no further, and if they ask, or if the conversation goes further, well, I believe Jesus will come one day, and in this way, and make the world a better place. And I said, and often we have some good discussions, and I say, yeah, well, actually, I believe that Jesus has come to show us how to do it. So he's come in the sense of just being like us guys who have got to connect with God themselves. He's not already fully connected with God and not already doing miracles and that sort of stuff. So, he's going through the stages. So sometimes I have conversations with people, but I think there's only been one person, and I've been following this stuff for about 11 years, there's only been about one person, I think, other than my children, who have really thought that is the truth.
You mean one person in your life?
Yes, one person in my life, yeah.
Who was it, if you...
It's a girl who may be my soulmate,
Is that your first love?
No.
No? It's another girl?
Yes, it's another girl.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you shared with quite a few people in your... How many years have you been
11 years.
11 years.
Nearly.
So you have had quite a few conversations about it, and out of all your conversation you feel one person has the same feeling as you, that he might be the real thing.
Yeah.
Jesus has come back.
Yeah, well, I didn't even talk with her about Jesus. I just see it about the law of attraction and about releasing emotion and about when we've got sadness in our heart from our childhood, we need to release that to be able to attract love. And most people don't get that. Don't get that as a truth.
How has your family taken the fact that you believe and you follow?
They've been worried
Jesus.
about me.
Yeah,
they've been worried and thinking that I will one day be disappointed to find that it's not the truth.
They believe it's a cult then?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. All your siblings same, your parents same?
Yes.
Did it affect your relationship with your family?
Yes.
In which way?
In the way that they've used different types of tactics to try to get me to leave, to try in the way that some of them have tried being angry with me, try to tell me different, bring up different concerns and that. And mum and dad especially, but now they're more accepting. But my brothers I've changed as well. See, I used to be the perfect good boy, so I would be very good at pleasing and just giving everybody what they want and sacrificing, whereas I feel like that's not being true to myself or to them now. So I'm more honest now, and I'm more sort of I'm more like, I don't really want to do that. So I used to go and help them in their homes and stuff like that, and I'd only sort of really do that if I wanted to now, and mostly I don't want to do that, especially in that old way I find of pleasing, and that I find quite difficult being around that now, because I feel like I'm not really getting to know the real them either.
Is there not one single out of all your family, like you're 13,
yes,
there is not one single person
no.
Where your relationship has improved and you can be more real with them?
No.
Not yet?
Not yet.
Wow. What about your friends?
The same with my friends. I had a lot of enthusiasm when I learnt this truth and told all my family, told my friends, said this is remarkable, was so excited and thought that they would love it. I had some friends at Coffs Harbour we were all committed to dealing with our baggage. We had a men's group, we were right on, let's get to the core of our issues and challenge our insecurities. And I had two mates that used to do comedy, stand-up comedy, to challenge all their fears. They're great guys. And once I talked about this, they just didn't, and I stopped pleasing them as well. I had a very placating, pleasing sort of friendship with them. Anyway, they weren't really interested, and so I haven't been really friends with them since.
Have you developed new friendship?
Yes.
Like you lost for some moment old friends.
Yes.
Might come back, but have you did it attract new friendship?
Well, it did. Yeah, friends who I can be more myself with and be more honest with, and also experiment in a way of being myself and being more honest and stuff like that. So that's been good.
The very claim of A.G. Miller, it's my last question about that, but the very claim of A.G. Miller being Jesus, the first time, was it attractive to you? You wanted it to be true, or it was neutral, or it was, I understand that, for you it was just information important, it was maybe more neutral, but maybe you wanted it to be true, or you wanted, I don't know.
I think I was excited for it to be true, because I thought the world's in a pretty big mess, and this would be awesome. So I think I wanted it to be true, and believed it to be true as well. So I thought, excellent.
But did you have an experience, like lots of people say they believe is Jesus, lots of people in the divine truth, followers, but when Jesus talk about that, it say hardly anybody or just a handful people really believe it. Do you believe you are part of this person, these few person who had an experience with God about that, who really have that in their heart?
I don't know. AJ has said to me that I've believed he's Jesus all along.
That you have believed?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So you are part of the very few who had that true, that deep belief in the heart.
So I
not
think,
just intellectual.
So I think so. I think I sort of.
Have you been attracted to a kind of guru in the past?
No.
No. You are not this kind of person who looks for.
No. I thought I've been inspired by Jesus in the Bible. I've been inspired by Gandhi. I've been inspired by fellas like Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, you know, different people who I thought heroic people. I just love figures, but not to the point of, just as an inspiration, really. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you feel superior to people who are not listening to divine truth?
Look, mostly I have, to be honest, and at times I do. At times I want to, you know, at times I know that's not the truth, and I feel quite sad that I have had this sort of inflated image or ego or something, because I know the truth and others don't, and sort of use that as a tool or manipulation to be arrogant and to sort of, you know, put others down and to put myself up, really, you know. So I, you know, I'm less like that, certainly, and I see the error in that, you know, but it has been a big part of my journey, really, you know, this arrogant, which is really the opposite of the truth, you know. It's really the opposite of God's way, you know, judging people, you know. So, yeah, I'm sad about that, you know.
Do you want others, when you talk about it, you want others to believe you? When you talked about divine truth to others, you want them to believe?
Yeah, less so now. I think that's why.
Like you are preaching, I mean.
Yes, yes, I agree. Yes, I've been. What's the word? I've sort of been invested in them believing it. I wanted them to believe. Yes, you know.
Like maybe you have been preaching when you were in traveling the world, and you were taught to preach, basically.
Yeah.
So it's basically But do you like when someone is preaching to you? No. Yeah.
It's awful.
Yeah.
It's very awful.
Yeah.
I know, because I do get together with Christian people a bit, and sometimes we share faith stories and that, and sometimes they get into preaching a little bit, you know.
Do you get the Jehovah's Witnesses knocking at your door?
Sometimes.
Yeah. You must have interesting conversations.
Yeah, that's right.